For today, we're going to discuss about herd care management. Okay. It's very important for the farm to record everything. And you can see here the different like statuses of each group. So you're going to start with the halves. And then first, they're going to be housed individually until you group them up when they are already growers, or this would be your growing herd. From there, you would have another classification when they become 12 months old. You may now call them yearlings. And then when they become breedables, that's when you start changing the groupings, because you will have to make them ready. And then over time, as when every month they breed, you will have to check if they would be pregnant or not. Then you have to separate out the pregnants. So this just tells you that there is a different type of management depending on the status of the animal. So you have to take note of everything, because if not, it will be difficult for you to have good decisions or make up really sound decisions for improving the management of your farm. Okay. Let's start with at least having to know when would be the possible calving date or the parturition date. So for you to know this, you have an idea when was the breeding date. And then from there, you can estimate breeding date as 283 would 283 plus or minus 5 days would be your estimated date ranges for your parturition date. And nearing this date, there will be several adjustments that has to be done, like preparing for the maternity pen, and that is disinfecting the calving area and providing the proper beddings with the ample depth. Okay, and commonly here in the Philippines, we make use of rice hulls, especially here in Calabarzon, where we still have some areas, rice plantation areas. So if you don't have this rice hulls, then you can use straw beddings or whatever organic dry materials that is available in your area. But the concept here is to have it with caution so that not be painful for the dam as when she gives birth to the calf. And also, because of the calf drop, at least there will be some caution for the calf when it drops to the ground. Okay. It's also important that at this time, the birthing area is clean, because so that you can have clean udder for your dam to prevent mastitis. Okay. And we give an interval of about 30 minutes during the calving process before we could really intervene. So we really let the dam do all the work herself, because she would know that actually. And we just check her from time to time if there's a need to assist her. So we are guided by these two basic formulas so that we would know if we are on target in terms of calf drop and then calf drop. A calf crop and then calf drop. Okay, so as much as possible, we want to have 100%, but there may be some challenges, so it's fine not to hit the perfect target, the perfect score, but have a safe like goal of at least 80%. Okay, as a start for managing your breeding stock already. So on the day of parturition, you allow the dam to do her stuff, such as in cleaning the calf. So the natural way of doing it, so let her do it. And only you just assist if there's a special occasion, a special scenario when, like if you have to do cesarean section and stuff. So the dam would be in a restraining chute, so it would not be possible to do these things on her own. So you do assist her on this part. But nonetheless, if all is well, then she would do this by herself. You have to monitor if the calf is healthy, if the breathing is normal. If not, you may use this, we may call is like the resuscitator. It's basically providing air to the calf so that you can help in the respiration of the calf if there would be any difficulty. So parang CPR. Normally, I don't do this, but in the farm I used to work for, we have this resuscitator just in case there would be some, sporadic cases that there would be like slow breathing of the calf when it gets out from the dam. Okay, and the normal first thing that you do once you have, when you get hold of the calf is, of course, to clean the navel. And you dip it in 7% iodine or apply wound powder in it so that it will dry up easily, like in a matter of 24 hours, it's already dried up and there would not be any fly infestation in the area, which could lead to sepsis, okay, and pus formation on the navel, and we call that navel ill. So, and if the calf suffers from navel ill, there's a high possibility that it will die because it will have hyperemia or very high fever, which is enough to kill the calf, okay, because the immune system is not yet established. So it's important not to cut to the very base of the navel cord because you have to allot for about 3 cm from the body for proper healing and dried up of the navel cord. So you can cut it, or if it's not too long, you can just tie it up. That's ligation. Another thing, you have to have good access to the very best colostrum. So you can get it from the dam, especially if the dam is already old, of about 2 lactations and above. But if it's a spring heifer, first time to give birth, possibly the colostrum may not be good. So in the middle here, if you can see my arrow, this is what you call the colostrometer, and we use this to measure the quality of the colostrum, such that using this apparatus here, you can see that there's a green area, and that denotes that the colostrum is good. And the yellow area, it's like the middle part or the ceiling, and then the red part denotes that the colostrum is not good. So we put in about 80 mils of the colostrum inside this graduated cylinder. This may be plastic or glass. So it's better to use the plastic kasi we had experience before when one of the staff broke the glass. This is expensive, about 5,000 pesos for the set. So when you put in the measure, it will float. Okay, so as you see in the second picture right here, and in this particular picture, it's in the ceiling, but it's still colostrum because it's hitting the green mark. Okay. Now on the far end, on my right, okay, facing the right end, this is a refractometer. And we use this 24 hours after the birth of the calf. And this is to measure if there is good absorption of the colostrum or immunoglobulins from the colostrum by the calf. So we get about 1 ml or even less of the blood of the calf, and we get it from the base of the tail. And then we put a drop here in the refractometer where you see like a microscope slide shape, so like a glass area. We lift the cover and we put a drop of the blood there, and then we measure the protein. And there's a mark there saying that there is good enough protein in the blood, indicating that enough immunoglobulins was absorbed by the calf. Okay, so the picture is just tells us that in dairying, we practice zero weaning, such that on the day of parturition, the calf is already separated from the dam. And the reason for such is to prevent the calf from ingesting any debris or anything dirty in the other or mammary system of the dam or in the surroundings that will be absorbed readily by the calf gut system, which will definitely infect the calf and will render it to be diarrheic in a few days. So what we want that to be absorbed first would be the colostrum. So we have to clean the calf up, separate it out, and put it in this individual calf pen, and then harvest the colostrum from the dam using a milking bucket and then put it in a bottle and feed the calf. Okay, so this is our quite clean way on how to take care of the calf and to ensure that it becomes healthy over the next couple of days. In the first week of birth of the calf, we do several like procedures, and one of which is to weigh the calf and give the identification. The weighing happens right after we separate them from each other. So we take the calf, we weigh the calf, we also weigh the dam, and then we put the calf in the individual pen. Over the 1 week, no, it will be verified by the caretaker what would be the next available number to be given to the calf. And he will prepare the calf tag and apply it. And this red thing here is what we call the ear tag applicator. And the circular thing here is the ear tag, and this is particularly the RFID ear tag. So it's coupled with a software that would allow you to keep data about the calf, and you just need the serial number that goes with the ear tag. Okay. And then on the dam, we have to monitor for any possibilities of retained placenta or metritis. So things, okay. Over the course of the days, on day 5, this is our actual protocol at the farm already. So this may not be the same in other farms. If you go, come check them out later. So in our protocol, we give coccidrostat on day 5. And the regimen for this coccidrostat is you just give it once for life. So not unless there's an occurrence of diarrhea later, then you can give this coccidrostat again. But if there would be no occurrence of some sort of this kind, so 1 dose is enough for life, okay? And then based from experiences, we now use lead-free paint. And then if we have to repaint the calf pens, it has to be vacated for at least 14 days so that it will not intoxicate the calf, kasi they tend to be very playful. They tend to lick the paint, no, even if it's not really that wet anymore, but they will try to chip it. So then if they ingest a lot of the lead, then they get poisoned and then they die. Okay, and also on the color, we use low tone colors on the pen, so it's not too like shiny or distracting for them. We also check the mammary system for the females, because commonly we would see extranumerary teats, because they should just have 4 teats, no? 1, 2 in the front and 2 at the back. So you see it being pointed by the arrow is the 5th teeth, and this is not functional anyway. So it's just like an extra teeth, but there's no mammary system inside that goes with it. So we have to cut it, okay? So then, of course, we have to apply local anesthesia so that it will not be very painful, and to also adhere to animal welfare. Other guidelines as when the calf grows bigger, so up to 2 weeks, we're starting to teach the calf then to drink from the bucket, and that is drinking the milk and then the water. This is in preparation as when they have their communal housing or grouping. And in some farms, they would not be using actually individual milking bottles. They have a communal milking bucket, no, where it's a big bucket, and then there are several nipples. So it's feeding the milk by group. Okay, and also at this time, 7 days to 2 weeks is when we also monitor for any growth of the horn buds, so that we can already apply the dehorning paste, because once it grows older and we already see like a really big horn bud, it will be difficult to use the dehorning paste, and then it will be more painful that, no, to do the disbudding. Okay, when they become 30 days old, feeding artificially, meaning we already start to give concentrates. And at this point, we already start to wean off the milk. So they are being fed milk for 2 months, but at the start of the first month of age, we will already try to decrease the milk amount and try to increase the concentrate amount. So starting from 2 months, getting older, they would be fed artificially with the concentrates. And early on, now starting early on, meaning as early as 1 week, we already put some grass in their bucket so that they will start to nibble it. But we don't really expect them to eat a lot, but just rumen, so that it will already develop as early as possible. Another group that's quite special would be the veal cows, and this would either be males, but usually males, either males or females, but usually males, or females with abnormalities, because these are the ones that you won't be including in the herd going forward. And we feed them just milk alone. They would have whitened meat, and it will be marketed at a special price up when they become 100 kilograms body weight. Okay, weaning, meaning, okay, for Roman numeral number 4, weaning is this the second type of weaning. So this weaning means that we will now remove the milk in the diet of the ruminant. And this starts as when they are 2 months old. At this point, this is already considered that they have zero milk intake. And this entails a different diet because it is now mainly concentrates and grass, okay? From 2 months to 12 months old. And from 12 months old, they become classified to be as yearlings by then, okay? Now for the male stockers, these may be your vealers that are weaned from milk replacer until they are sold. So coming from the milk, if they have not been sold at that time, they will again be given concentrate as well. So same as how I explained it earlier, okay? So up to when they become 450 kilograms. So mostly concentrates and grass. So we just want to have the build up. So we will be selling them as meat, okay? So let me clarify. We are talking about dairy cattle, but if they will not be included in the herd going forward, that will be milked later on, they will be considered and raised as like they are beef cattle. Okay, so they will be sold as beef. There are some cases where we see some umbilical hernia, and at this point, we want to correct them as soon as possible. For this picture, this is actually already quite old, no, to correct the umbilical hernia, kasi possibly this is about 4 months old. If you can already identify it as soon as possible, then do the correction soonest as well, because it will be less painful, less bloody, and more manageable because less of the intestines would already be out of the abdomen. So easier to do the surgery. And this is the reason why we want to start off with the fiber allocation in the calves as early as possible. And you see, if we would not be giving off the concentrates and the hay at the proper time, then there might be a delay in the rumen development, okay? So you see the difference of how it would look like depending on the diet of the calf. Another procedure that we do as early as possible, about 7 days to 14 weeks, is the debudding or dehorning, which I mentioned earlier. So this is bloodless, but still painful. But the concept here is the animal is the lesser pain it is because the lesser horn cells are acted upon by the caustic soda. Okay, so the horning paste is caustic soda and it will burn or kill the horn cells. So that's the concept of using this. So the protocol is to have the applying person with gloves or with the use of a spatula as what we see in the picture to apply in the surrounding horn buds. Okay, what's not in the picture is the area should be clipped first surrounding the horn bud. So it will be easy to put the horning paste and it will have a close contact on horn directly. And then you keep it dry. You isolate it from other animals that may tend to lick the caustic area. Otherwise, no, it will burn the tongue of that another animal. And then you also refrain it from going outside because if it rains, then it will drip, it will burn the face of the calf. Okay, so these are your pointers. It has to be in a dry place, quite isolated, so it won't be leaked by others or it rub it on others. Okay, so what some farmers would do is they would wrap around, no, like Frankenstein. So they would cover after installing or applying the dehorning paste, they will cover it and put the tape around the head so that it would keep the gauze in place. Okay, another method to do it, this is the iron cautery. If in case you miss out the proper time to apply the dehorning paste, then you may do this. It's very important to provide local anesthesia to lessen the pain and to adhere to animal welfare issues. Okay, so these are your steps on how you will do it. Hot cautery, so you need heat not to kill the horn cells, and you need ample pressure to press it so the horn will now be flattened. And there will still be some bleeding, but manageable because it will be cauterized by the heat of your rod, okay, your hot iron. After which, you clean up the surroundings, you apply iodine, and then wound spray fly repellent to remove or to um, lessen the chances of fly infestation. Next would be castration, which can be done up to 6 months of age, but you can already see the scrotum by when it's 2 weeks old and above. So we use this castrating band, okay? And there are several, actually just two, no, just two variations for this. The common that we see is the blue type band castrator, and if the male calf is grown, a little grown. So you may be using the tri-band castrator, which utilizes a thicker rubber band. Okay. So I used to do this, but when I became more mature, no, because this is very painful and it's bloodless. But the thing is, the scrotum may not fall in a month, especially if you're applying this on small ruminants. So actually, because of my practice with small ruminants, that I decided to discontinue doing this because it takes so long for them before they would have the scrotum no detached from the wall, from the body wall. Okay. For large ruminants, it's faster. The concept is you're going to stop the circulation of blood towards the male reproductive tract. So if the circulation dies, then the tissue will also die and it will slough off. It will detach itself, no? And there would be complications on this as well if you do not monitor properly. There's an open wound and then the fly would go there and then there would be meiosis. So it's also important to monitor this and apply wound spray as much as needed. So there may be a need to do it daily as well. Okay, so for people who knows how to do the castration, the surgical one, then just do the surgical castration at a later time. So spare doing this, okay? But this is still being done worldwide by a lot of farms. So at least you know that it's happening there. So you would be familiar. As when they become 6 months of age, okay, we now have to separate the heifer from the bulls. In our experience, it actually starts at 4 months because they do this playing, but sometimes one or like two of that batch are more mature than the others. So you would really have unwanted pregnancy early on. So it's better to separate them out as soon as 4 months. So you already have a separate feeding management or general management for this group that are all females, and then this group that will later be that are male stockers. And ideally you don't grow them in the farm because they will be just like sold as beef cattle. They would not be of proper use in your dairy operations. So as soon as you can sell them, you sell them. Okay, but at least you have to separate them up and just select at most one that you will use as a bull if there's really a need for you to keep one. Okay. On a monthly basis, you have to weigh and group your animals according to the size and uniformity because it's important for you to have a homogeneous herd, okay? And sometimes you will really encounter laggers or a little, the stunts, okay? So with your monthly weighing, you can rectify any idiosyncrasies early on. So if you see one or two lagging behind in terms of body weight, so you separate them out, you feed them more, you give them supplements so that they would be able to catch up to their group. Okay, so that's the essence of having to do this a monthly job religiously. Okay. If in you grace them out at this starting at this point, because they're already important for you to provide good shade and shelter, because they may be prone to heat stress and heat stroke, especially during summertime. So I already had experience of losing about two animals because of heat stroke. Okay. Next, if you have to have a close relationship with the animals, such as like in the States, they show their animals, so they're very physically close to them. So you train them to accept the halter. So in our operations before, we have a semen collection facility. So we grow some of our bulls and we train them to accept the halter because later on, when they become semen donors, they will be handled through their halter and to their nose ring. So that's one of those activities that we have to prepare for them early on. But this is one activity that is not mostly done by most of the farms. So this is just a special one, but I'm sharing with you just in case, so that you have general knowledge of this one. Moreover, we want to prevent any hardware disease. That's why we also make it a point to apply this rumen magnet, no? And especially if you're working in a farm that has a lot of construction and we want it to be a perfect world that the construction company will also do post-construction cleanup perfectly. But there will be some, no, that will be quite negligent of their responsibilities and a lot of the wires would be left behind, etc. And we just want to make sure that everybody's covered. So we just made it a protocol to put one rumen magnet in each of the animals by the time they become 15 months. Okay, and this is how we do it. We have a rumen applicator and we put them inside this crush and it has this head bail so that the head will be stabilized. And then we insert the magnet inside this applicator and then with the nose lid, we lift up the head of the cattle and then we put the applicator and there's like a plunger. So when we already press the plunger, it will release the magnet and then the animal will swallow it. And it will remain in the rumen of the animal for life. And when it dies, for whatever reason, we harvest the magnet again, we clean it, and then we reuse it. Okay. One magnet is about 150 pesos. Also small size, fit for small ruminants. Another management procedure is the horning. If in case we were able to buy an animal that's already grown up and then it has horns. So we use these big dehorning tools. They're quite heavy. So we have several variations. Dehorner, Barnes type dehorner, or the Keystone dehorner. All are heavy, actually. And then another way to do it is the dehorning wire. When you're doing the horning for cattle, you have to inject local anesthesia. There's no need to use sedate the animal. You just put it in a crush, do the local anesthesia, and then you use either of this. Still expect that there will be some bleeding, so be ready with your cauterizer for this one. For the breedables, and this is when we start having them at 18 to 20 months of age, they have to reach this ideal body weight, which is at 350 kilograms. So if a heifer is 20 months old, but still only 300 kilograms, we wait, no? We try to feed her more so that she will be at the kilogram mark before we breed her. So we're after the body weight and not on the age when it comes to breeding. Ideally, of course, everyone will be at this body weight at the same time, now per batch, okay? And then after the breeding, we commonly do artificial insemination for 3 times. And we use backup bowl for the remaining 2 attempts to make her pregnant. Okay. And then after 1 month, we do pregnancy diagnosis with the use of an ultrasound. But if you don't have that, you can start doing the palpation as early as 45 days to 60 days after the breeding date. To record the breeding date so that when we will have the ultrasound and then the rectal palpation. Again, we weigh them every month so that we can monitor if they're gaining weight, especially if we expect them to be pregnant. When they have been identified to be pregnant, they will be separated from the rest of the bred or still heifers because there will be a different feeding management to be done to them. They will be given additional supplements to help them with their pregnancy and making sure that they are not with a bull so that there will be lessened trauma because they're already pregnant. Okay. And this is an important aspect that maybe, forgotten by some farms because some farms are not doing any AI, so they're just relying on the live bull to do the mating, and then they don't do the pregnancy diagnosis religiously. So they don't know if the dam is or if the cow is already pregnant or not, and sometimes they exhibit some ano yan, miscarriages, no? Because the bull will keep on mounting the already pregnant cow, but they don't know. So the dam would get stressed and then she will lose the pregnancy. So it's too much of a waste now of everything. So we're very, very careful on this step. We do weigh them every month and then we do the pregnancy diagnosis and we're very prompt on that. Okay, on weighing them every month, we also do the other scoring such as lameness scoring, body condition scoring, and then we also do the monthly supplementation, be it pregnant or not. So those are the many procedures that we do on a monthly basis. So this is the way on how to be proactive in your operations. Okay, minimum housing recommended, meaning you don't have to put them in a special house or fancy house. As in the picture, they're just out in the field and you just put like even a simple roofing just when they could rest down during the middle of the day when it's very hot. And then once we are already nearing the calving date, we train the milking cow special the first time to join the existing milking herd so that they would already know the routine as when they start to be milked. Okay. On the early pregnancy, we have a special feeding management. We increase the protein and because this will help in the development of the fetus. And we are careful not to give any vaccinations or dewormers to them because you can only give them as when they are about to give birth, no, at the last 2 weeks and last 6 weeks, if we're talking about vaccination. Particularly on the last 2 months of pregnancy, we call this as preparing them from preparing them for the next lactation. And part of the procedure is drying them. Okay, this is only applicable if the cow is being milked and at the same time pregnant. So she has to prepare her mammary system for the next pregnancy. So 2 months before the next parturition, we have to dry her off from the milk, from giving off milk, okay? So that the mammary system will be able to cope up and rejuvenate itself, and it will go back to the desired size and capacity so that it will give more milk in the next lactation, okay? Especially in countries such as New Zealand, where there is still like the vast lands, mountains, where they graze them. So 2 months before calving, we tend to group them on pastures already near the barn or the milking parlor, so they don't have to be stressed in having to walk to the parlor every day coming from afar. Particularly 1 week before calving, we house them separately. So as soon as 2 weeks before calving, we already put them in the maternity pen. This is the good practice or the better practice. And as mentioned earlier, it has to be clean, it has to be well bedded, etc., etc. And so at least they're already relaxed so that the pregnancy or like the parturition process would not be very stressful to them. Otherwise, they may have some complications during the parturition and during the early lactation. Okay? And you have to monitor them properly for signs of what's listed here. And you can check, normally they would have reduced appetite as when they're, part of the labor process. You have this distended udder, mucus discharge from the genitals, etc., etc. So these are the very various signs indicating that the dam is about to give birth. Okay, going forward, okay, other things that we do is hoof trimming and of course, proper feeding and nutrition, clean drinking water that has to be changed every day. And then we also clean the water trough. If they're removable, then we clean them every day. If they're permanent, such as a cemented water trough, so we clean them every week. No, especially if they're in the field, and then there may be some mold formation, so we have to really remove the water and then clean them every week at least. Here in the Philippines, we shower our cows because it's really hot. And you see on the back side of this barn are ventilation fans. So this may not be needed for temperate countries, but here in the Philippines, we really need them. So this additional or these add-ons increases the milk production and well-being of the cows. Okay, even if they are not lactating yet, no, of course, they're happier if they're cooler. They won't be panting. And actually, they really love the shower. See, the cow here, the heifer is even asking for it. Okay, so next slide is additional just tips to increase the animal welfare. So don't frighten them during milking. In fact, we play classical songs to them. It relaxes them. Same thing as for lactating moms, no? When we are giving off milk, the mother has to be relaxed. So dapat good serotonin flowing, so good mood na, good vibes. So yung favorite music niya, favorite quiet environment, no shouting, no poking, no running fast, etc. Okay? So this is how we also train our milkers to behave properly, not to be rowdy, around the milking cow so that they won't get frightened. Very important to have an equal or milking interval that is exactly 12 hours. Okay? That's the best. But if you cannot deal with that, at least have like a closer interval between the two shifts. We commonly have the AM shift of milking and then the PM shift of milking. So for example, if you're milking at 4 a.m., then in the afternoon, you should also be milking at 4 p.m. So this is how we were doing it, but there are some farms that would be milking it at, but would be milking at 5 a.m. and that they will be milking at 3 p.m. So it's not too far off from the 12-hour interval, but I mean, that's the gist because these are creatures of habit. So it's important that you establish your schedule and you would have an equal amount of milk that will be harvested in the morning and also in the afternoon. Okay, additional tips to just the animal welfare. So we don't startle them with neon colors of our garments, okay, of our uniforms. We don't put unnecessary or shiny things in the walkway or anything that will startle them that's new. And then we also don't hang any clothings in the railings because that will frighten them because again, that's a new. No sudden movements as well. Now on the dry off. So this is again what's happening 2 months before the expected date of parturition. So aside from removing them from the milking line, so the other system will be able to recover for the next lactation, we have to give an infusion in each of their teeth so that it will be sealed and no debris will come inside the teeth that will cause mastitis. Okay, so this is actually a program. This is not abrupt. So the protocol may be like if they're being milked daily before, you twice a day daily, then you intermittently milk them like once a day, every day, and then in the following week, once every other day until they get totally dried off. So it's a gradual process. It's never abrupt. Otherwise, you will have mastitis. And aside from then, that you also have to put in this teeth infusion on the last day of milking to seal the teeth so that it will not give off any more milk and no foreign material will come inside to cause mastitis. Okay. Just an additional information. So you may encounter dry off preparations with antibiotics. So that's also being done before. But over time, no, as I grow older in the career, I tried to remove the using the antibiotic infusion. So what we were using, the latter part now, is just bismuth subsys. Let me check. The picture here still has the antibiotic, no? So the product I'm telling you is, we call it teeth sealant. So it has a compound, if I'm not mistaken, bismuth subsalicylate. Okay, so it will just put a plug in the teeth, so it will protect it. Okay, so it's that, and there's no antibiotic in that anymore. So to prevent AMR, okay, so and that's also being practiced by other farms abroad already for the main reason to prevent the AMR. Now we go to the breeding sire, and starting when they're 6 months to 8 months old, we start to teach them to lead. So there's a nose ring and then there's a lead rope. So we start walking them. Again, this is a special procedure, and we were doing this before because we have the semen collection facility. So on a normal basis, you don't do this, okay? So after which we use the halter, either the halter or the nose ring, to control the head of the animal and to direct them where they would be going. Going to the, we have an oval, okay? And we walk the bulls there so that they get as accustomed to the smell of the handler, to the routine of walking and going to the collection site and mounting in the mount or with another bull, something like that, okay? So it's at this time that they would also have the nose ring. Okay, we would be installing the nose. And once the bull gets older, there may be a need to replace the nose ring with a bigger diameter and a heavier and more durable product or type of nose ring. Okay, this is an actual picture of the farm I used to work for. If I cannot remember the name of this bull, but this is one of our youngest bull, and it's very cute. Okay, so and very tame because he grew up living with the handler and having a close daily relationship because they get baits every 2 to 3 days. Okay, so these are not very aggressive bulls. Okay, this is our walkway. So we also call this as the rotunda, and these are our bull handlers. They get this exercise every 2 to 3 days in a week. That's the preparation for their job as semen donors. Moreover, each bull is housed individually, otherwise they will fight. And then we also tend to have an idea which bulls are friends, which are not. So they don't, so the unfriendly ones are housed more away from each other. And and yeah, and if not for semen collection, we may use them for natural breeding, and then after they retire from semen collection, we sell them as bulls, no, as breeding bulls to other farms. Okay, if in case that we selected a bull and then suddenly we won't be needing him anymore, So we may castrate him with the use of a band or surgically. So this is what we call the California bander. Same concept as the illustrator earlier, but because we're now dealing with bigger scrotum, so you have to use a bigger band for this one. So there's a different way of applying this. You can search it in the internet. They have a tutorial for that. Okay, for the replacement stock, okay, every year you have to maintain the same number of animals that you cull. For example, you cull 10%, so you have to replace it with at least 10%. So just equal sign, okay? But generally, we have to prepare for 20% of the replacement stock on a yearly basis, okay? We have a good selection process for that so that we only maintain the very best of our herd. Okay? More management tools. We really manage our waste properly because we also use it as a biofertilizer. So we have this manure disposal system. We collect the manure from our barns. We store them. We aerate them, and we also sun dry them before we release them in the field as biofertilizer. And this is how we handle the manure. We have to have good drainage so it's easier to collect them. And then we also have a biogas facility, so we can use the gas for other purposes outside our farm operations. And these are the many options that you can do also to have sustainable farming, okay? We are very serious about our waste. We segregate our waste by degradable, non-bioinfectious. We collect them properly and sell them or send them off to the proper companies that would treat them properly. We have a small laboratory, especially we do a lot of supplementation, vaccination, etc. So we handle our sharps and use syringes properly. We have a pollution control officer. It's very important that you have one because we love the environment. It's just that, no? And we have regular garbage collection. It's important for you to have a clean farm so that you will have less diseases to manage, okay? So we have a material recovery facility or MRF where we store all our waste, we segregate them, and someone would collect them later on. That's it. Do you have any questions?